I have thoroughly tested the Mini 3 Pro for night photography and found it extremely good. I will add a link to my analysis at the end of this video and in the description below. In this video we will see if the Mini 3 can put up a similar performance with low light footage. I will also give you a few tips on how to get the best results when filming after sunset or before sunrise. First of all, it is very important to use always manual exposure. In low light, it is critical to use specific ISO values that yield the best results. You also want to apply the 100-degree rules by using a frame rate of 24 frames per second and a shutter speed of 1/50th of a second. When using auto exposure, it is possible to get occasionally good clip, but in most instances it will be too noisy because of the wrong ISO value or stuttering because of the wrong shutter speed. By using auto exposures, beginners surrender the control of the exposure, are not aware of what is happening, and will never improve. The best way to go is to choose a frame rate of 24 frames per second, a shutter speed of 1/50th of a second, use an ISO value between 100 and 400, and then choose the perfect moment after sunset to get the correct amount of light. More on this later on this video. With most drones in low light, I prefer to use normal color mode, but with the Mini 3 the opposite is true. In normal, I find that the shadows are too dark, at least in my unit. While this in light performs extremely well with ISO values up to 400, even ISO 800 is very usable. But if we choose with care the optimal time to shoot, we don't need to push ISO above 400. Very often I see tests of the low light capability of a drone in a big city with very strong artificial lights at night. In certain cases the result can be pretty spectacular, but this kind of footage does little to show how a drone can handle low light. These are rather high light situations, as there are plenty of powerful artificial lights, and the challenge is rather to avoid burning the highlights, while the areas in the shadows will be totally black. In my opinion, the best scene for low light tests contain only a small amount of artificial lights, with plenty of space occupied by natural elements like the sea, the sky and vegetation. To test the low light capabilities of a drone, we need some sort of main light. Therefore, we will shoot after sunset, but before full darkness, using the last twilight as our main source. If we are lucky, some moonlight will also be excellent. Here in Sicily the twilight after sunset lasts for about 45 minutes. We are at the same latitude as North Carolina, while in Northern Europe, New England or Canada it is obviously much longer. Let's see what happens at different intervals during the twilight. This clip was shot 15 minutes after sunset, which is an excellent time for shooting footage and photos, with very soft shadows and nice colors. But it's not yet what I would consider low light. Don't get me wrong, it was very dark, but the Mini 3 with a huge aperture of the lens and a relatively big sensor is able to gather plenty of light. Things become more interesting when some street lights are turned on. Here, at the moment, they are saving money on electricity as much as possible, so when the lights are on, it is always very dark. We are 30 minutes after sunset, it is the last bit of twilight. Even though with the Mini 3 we can give the impression of much higher luminosity if we so wish. We can still use an ISO value of 200 or 400, and as you can see, the result is excellent. The artificial lights act as a fade light, giving a tridimensional feel to the scene. In certain cases they also add some nice geometrical patterns. In this case, I really like the flashes of light over the sea from the lighthouse. When filming in low light with a ground-based camera, we can often control the position and the strength of the main and the fade light. But in most cases with drones, we have to make the most of what is available and choose a scene according to the pattern of light it contains. The same process obviously works with sunrises. Here we are 30 minutes before sunrise and the light conditions are very similar. Another factor to consider is the position of the light source. When shooting in the direction of the light, it is harder to recover the shadows, and it is often better to leave the ground as a silhouette. While with the sun behind, the dynamic range is much lower and the shadows are very smooth and the color very pleasant. Now we are more than an hour after sunset, into total darkness, in a medium-sized town. The result here is frankly disappointing, but the culprit is not the Mini 3. For this sort of scenes shot at night, we need a city with very powerful artificial light and tall buildings. It is certainly not the case here, so the overall luminosity is too low and there is plenty of noise everywhere. I can get rid of the noise using the excellent Nit Video 5, my favorite denoiser. You can watch my analysis of Nit Video by clicking on the link on the screen. As you can see, the image is much cleaner now, but still nothing to write home about. Even in this scene of small towns or villages with a moderate amount of artificial lights, much better results are obtained with a bit of twilight to act as the main light. In all these low-light situations, the Mini 3 behaved incredibly well. It is hard to believe how much drone technology has improved in the last few years. With prosumer drones of the previous generation of the DJI line, I would not even have attempted shooting under such challenging light conditions.